Can we close the doors? Everybody, please put your cell phone on vibrate. I am happy to introduce Stephen Zhang. John. It's Z-H-A-N-G, and it's pronounced Zhang. He is an accomplished water media artist and a design professional with a passion for creating large-scale watercolor paintings that showcase his fluid, very expressive, empathetic style. He's born in China. He graduated from Lucian Academy of Fine Arts and received his MFA from the University of North Texas. Go Eagles. Right?
Go
yes. Eagles. This is going to be great. I've seen him work, and it's amazing.
Thank you. Well, first I'd like to thank Lauren, who moved the mountain and make this thing happen, and also thank for all the artist associations for all the volunteer work, and this wouldn't happen without you guys' work. So thank you so much for bringing this event to the U.S. and to North Texas. I just got here, and I'm so happy to see some old friends, and then make some friends with people I haven't met. Now I can't see any of you guys, so which is just fine. So my paintings has a certain range, so big part of it are about human stories, and then other parts are landscapes, and I do illustrations, things like that. The stories about human beings is one of the favorite things for me to work on. I like to learn about their lives, to learn about the people, and then to paint them. So naturally, the portrait is part of that. So I do some portraits, and everybody paints differently. So everything I'm talking about is just specific about me, and it's I got there through my sort of a journey to get here. So I think no matter how much we learn from our teachers and things like that, ultimately it is on ourselves to find that path through doing. So for me, portrait is about that person. I don't see a head as an object, an exotic object, whether it's a darker skin or whether it's a lighter skin or whether it's, from a Chinese, I don't seek, other people because they look exotic. I look for the personality. So in painting portraits, so I'm gonna, before I get into that, just a very basic setup. Some people ask me. So my paper, I like to stretch paper onto the board. So this is it, just a frame and then the plywood. I have quite a few of them, and then I just kind of staple them. I like it because I wet it like that's how you stretch canvas, and the paper stays really flat. It's really fun to play with, to paint on, and then when it's done, you cut it out. It's ready to mat. You don't have to weigh it, and you don't have to flatten it anymore. It's it feels really nice to paint on the perfect smooth paper. I don't like the paper that buckles. I don't like my sheet had wrinkles. So that's paper. And then I have brushes. I have some Chinese calligraphy brushes. And I have some Hackett brushes. And I have some mops, the squirrel tails. And then I have some Kolinsky, and then I have some other knick-knack. Black velvet is my workhorse when I get into details. And paint-wise, I'm currently like a mix match, like all kinds of different paint. I have some honey-based paint, and I have some regular paint. My palette is relatively stable. We have the dark, basically have a color and then a warm and a cool version of each of the colors. So that's sort of basic setup. This portrait I'm trying to work on today, I have already done that because I realize I'm not the kind of person who just go in there and start a new demo from scratch and then knowing I can do it well. My painting process is pretty arduous. When I fail many times, and then sometimes I'm lucky to get it right. So this painting I already done it once. If you guys want to look at the finished one, it's on my Facebook and Instagram. It's Stephen Zhang Art, StephenZhang Art. So you can see a finished version. Of course, this one is not going to look like that, and that's the beauty of watercolor. Not two paintings will look the same. So this painting, this person was in a market in China, in southwest region, where my parents live. So it's a big market, and every year I visit the market, and I see all kinds of people. It's really fascinating. This is one of the vendors sitting there. I took a bunch of pictures. He definitely has a very unique personality. He seems to be a seasoned vendor, but small. Scale, and he's really not trying to sell really hard. He's just sitting there and just kind of let it happen. I sketch the image onto the paper ahead of time. I do pretty extensive study trying to look at the planes that form this three-dimensionality. In painting portraits, a lot of people think, try to capture the person, you need to do a great job on their eyes. But in reality, the eyes are only one component. It's really the muscle. Sometimes you don't see the eyes, and yet the personality still comes through it. Because if you look at Rembrandt's painting, which is my favorite artist, his eyes are always very soft and blurred because it's in the shadow. I feel like if I do it right with the surrounding muscles and everything, the personality will also come through. So the foundation for a portrait to me is to understand the anatomy of the human figure, and then understanding how these parts, the bones and muscles, what we see are the exterior, the planes, but understand what's underneath. So we paint what we see, but we also need to paint what we know. Because sometimes, most of us right now paint from photograph. And the photograph, depending on the lighting, the angle, and everything, could be deceiving. If you have a wide angle, it could be deceiving. So what we know should kick in at that point to compensate for some of the blurredness and, Okay, so to get started, I don't have a set process, but generally, I want to start because knowing that when you put a fresh paint on white paper, naturally it looks darker than normal. So putting the dark first is always risky, but you can do it. You can compensate. You can overshoot it. But in this one, I would start on the lighter tones, just to set some context, so that when we get the darker ones, it's it has a reference. It's not over, Okay, so I got some yellow ochre, burned amber, burnt sienna. I have sepia. So some of these based on form the base, and some of the reds too of the skin. If we analyze this portrait, can you see okay? Okay, so where the light hits from this angle, therefore certain planes are lit. Because this is all, his under a sort of a covering, so there's no direct sunlight. And then the lit part is slightly cooler, and then the neutral, the mid-tone range is kind of warm. And then when they go down to the shadow, it takes on cool colors, maybe the reflection from the clothing. So my painting process generally, I would say, takes 3 stages. The first stage, I would call it sort of quick wash. And it's not literally wash, because I paint wet on dry. But the water and the paint in this stage run into each other naturally. So, and this is the stage where I use intuition, how I feel about, I'm not sort of over analyzing, because there's really nothing, there's not, if you're doing scientific research, there's not enough evidence to analyze everything yet. So it's impression, intuition, and don't worry about whether it's perfectly right or not. If you feel, use your a sense to feel it. I mean, why do we do paint? Why do we do art? Why do we paint watercolor? Can't remember the author's name. She said you don't mix writing and editing at the same time. When you write, you write. Stories should pour out, well, hopefully. And then when it's edited, the time of editing, you are ruthless.
What kind of brush are you using?
This is a Chinese painting brush. If you are familiar with Chinese brush, they're generally brown color here. They're more stiff. They're made from hog. And then you have the white hair, which is made from sheep. They're softer. So this is a little. So this brush, I like it because it's versatile, especially in this stage. It can do round, it can do flat if I do this. So it can hold a lot of water. So it's a pretty nice tool to use. Anytime you have questions, please feel free to ask. It's just a desktop easel that my wife just got me, so first time using it. I'm not going to paint the background because I will work on the head first, normally I would, but once the background's on, the entire relationship changes, and then I have to spend time to kind of readjust the relationship. So we don't have time for that.
Do you normally do it while you're painting, or first or last?
It's sort of in the middle. You talking about background?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in the middle. Like when the head is down to the gray, and then background, and then then kind of rearrange, evaluate the relationship again. What I'm painting using the flats is based on the learning that it's more efficient and to draw, to paint human or object in flat planes. It simplifies, so we don't have to be so uptight about the small curves and nuance. And then eventually, just like sculptures, first you chisel in the big planes, and then gradually you can work on the smaller and smaller one, and then eventually you can polish the whole thing if you want to. So I paint, try to connect the parts and then let the paint flow into one another. It's kind of, piecing the pieces, like making a mosaic together. What I enjoy this sort of the flow and the fluidity of the medium. This one is a Prussian blue, and then this is a alizarin crimson. I understand that the projection isn't clear enough. I don't know if it's allowed, but I don't mind if people come over and take a quick peek. So.
Have you found this variety of brushes on your trips to China so that you're getting them firsthand?
Yes, I found them in China. It's not very special, just pretty common brushes. Not special meaning because if you're accomplished calligrapher, you probably want something even better. But for watercolor, this is good enough. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So what I paint with the flat brush is following the planes, and the planes are defined by these anatomical components like muscles and bones. It's efficient in a way.
Did you stretch your watercolor paper on the canvas frame?
It's just a wood frame with a plywood.
So is that 140-pound paper?
Yes. Well, this one is arches rough, 156 pounds, which is unique to the rough. But 140 pounds, I use that too. This is still in my first phase. Basically, I will go over the entire painting, and then the next phase would be sort of building specific. So building the details, building the specific forms, and so that gets into more slower, more sort of analytical stage. And then the very last stage is sort of, we call, like editing. So you check relationship among colors, values, everything. Because, when we work on this in an intuitive way, some of the things, naturally are not taken care of. And what's the brightest spot, what is the darkest, what is the warmest, what is the coolest, the edges and everything. So many of the things were done during the first 2 stages, but you have other concerns as well. But the last stage really is like single out certain issues, like let me look at my blues, or let me look at my edges and hairlines and whatever. And then that is slow, couple brush stroke maybe, and then stop and then come back.
You always done watercolor, or did you start out with something else?
In China, we start off gouache. It's sort of a thicker watercolor. You can do dry, really, really like, you can do it like acrylic. I start out my dad was a professor and he painted. He doesn't paint anymore. He's 90-some years old, but he painted watercolor and oil painting, and then I picked up watercolor. And then mostly when we move here, when we have children and everything, oil painting is, toxic and everything, so, watercolors are naturally a better choice. And I also love, really fall in love with it because the accidents and spontaneities, and it's just more magical to me.
Even your brush strokes are probably the most unusual I've ever seen. The way you pause and think about it before you brush. If somebody wants to try to have that intuitiveness that you have, what do you recommend? Just practicing brush strokes, or?
I would say, if we single things out, right? So, if we just say brushstroke itself, there's a design to it, the angles and everything. And it's really like what looks good to you, and then. But it's to me, you're right. It's definitely something that is a deliberate exercise. But obviously, when we paint brushstroke, but we also are painting the object. We're painting the colors. We're painting, a lot of different things. So the brushstroke is like containing a lot of elements. But one of the things I've learned from my professor at UNT, Roberto, some of you guys probably have heard, is make it direct. We're painting it, we're not drafting. This also comes from Chinese art. Like, Chinese art has different style. There's like very, very careful one, and there's one called pouring ink. So, it's, to me, for most of us, we paint this is for the mind and the body, connecting your body, your emotion, and your brushwork together. That's what I like. But, there's definitely other schools and considerations, and they're equally great. So I can only say, what I like. So to me, the first step, the wash, is the most fun because I'm like able to play, without kind of considering the consequences too much. We'll deal with it later.
Do you ever go back in and lift out?
Oh, yeah. More than I liked, but yes. Sometimes you had fun and then you come back like, oh, that was a lot of fun, but it's not good. But, at least it was a good experience. And the other thing is, I'm kind of like careful, but if you really analyze, I'm not. This is not very careful. It doesn't follow the lines, doesn't necessarily follow, the contours and everything. There's, to a degree, it's, you kind of have to, care just to a certain degree, but not like overly nervous and everything. And it's, it's a very forgiving medium. You can change it. You can even change color, after you put it on. And then the thing is, because we, some of us in the past have talked about this, is like, it's really the sort of a mentality and attitude toward how you paint. When we, we're trying to control the painting. Yes, it's watercolors the most frustrating one because people keep, oh, watercolor is hard. When you analyze why they say that is because they try to get to a point, but the watercolor doesn't go with that direction. But if you change the mindset of trying to control, and if you
Can you hold it up again?
yeah. If you try to respond to it, then you're fine, right? So if it's not doing right, then we'll follow what that leads me to wherever it goes. I guess for all of us who have cats, that's, they own you. You have to follow.
Can you talk more about your wrapping your watercolor paper, how you protect it? Is it cold wax? Is it spray varnish? What do you do?
No, I framed them. You talking about afterwards?
Yes, because you've got it wrapped on a cradle or a frame.
Oh yeah. No waxing, no nothing. I mean, this is just paper I'm painting on.
You take it off before you turn.
Yeah, I'll trim it off when I frame it.
So you take it back off?
So when I finish it, I'll just trim it and then I frame it.
Did you use a water-soluble graphite for your drawing?
It's just a graphite. I mean, it's like number 2 pencil I got laying around somewhere.
Do you usually use that? Because I saw your Facebook one doesn't look like any pencil lines.
I'm sorry?
Your Facebook one doesn't look like any pencil lines underneath. Do you usually use erase? How do you remove the line?
The marks under the paint is you can't erase, and then I'll erase the one that's exposed. The ones under the dark, they're barely visible. So mine always have a little pencil line showing through.
Do you ever use masking fluid?
Seldom, very, very rare. I like to just leave it. I know that what I left isn't perfect, but I'm not crazy about the look of the masking fluid.
Can you speak about your palette, about why you chose the colors that you did, and any particular ones that you gravitate towards, or you use most often?
Sure. Generally, this is my palette regardless of the painting. And then every now and then I might need, because I don't have purple in anything, but this one, Lauren gave me this palette a long time ago. And have a little rose in there, which I needed. Occasionally I will, call up other colors, but generally, my thing is I'll mix the color with what I have. I can't, and I don't predict what color I need, because I don't want to be limited by that fixed color. So my painting is, has to be this way because I have to use particular pigment. Yeah, relatively large, not like super large lately. I did a large illustration lately. My painting time usually is in summer.
Stephen, do you ever consider teaching watercolor at UNT?
I work in the design department, and the watercolor is in the studio department, and they used to have watercolor started by Rob, and then later on by Millie, by his wife, and they canceled that. So I'm not, I only went back there a few years ago, so I'm not seasoned enough yet to open that can of worm.
I've been talking to the dean about that.
I think it's different. The studio area is not set up by medium, except if you're sculpture and metal. In terms of paintings, it's just a paintings. They don't really, but I don't know if you guys know, we set up a Roberto Scholarship, and we have been giving that scholarship to people who work on water medium. So it's still going on. Every year, some graduate student benefited from that. So we're happy. So that tradition is still going, because the stipulation is the recipient has to work in the water medium.
Is there a reason you're skipping the ear?
Skipping what?
The ear.
The hair?
Ear.
Oh, I can't hear you. The ear is relatively isolated. I can do it anytime. I'm still trying to work out the relationship on the other part of muscles.
Steve, would you say the value of the stroke is more important than the color?
Well, someone said the value is more important, is really the backbone of the painting, and I think there's a lot of truth to that. But it's true to that, I think, for certain kind of paintings. Other paintings, they have more freedom in dealing with value. And this is a abbreviated version, of my painting process. So it's more direct because of the time and everything. Other time I might just do this and then I'll stop and then come back later. But there's definitely a certain amount of simplification going on here. So here's where we are. Yeah, I love the variation of edges, and then it's very important because sometimes the camera sees everything, but that's not how we see it. So the lost edge, soft edge, clear edges are so important. It creates some rhythm in the painting. And it direct your eyes to what you need them to do. So yes, absolutely. But I haven't dealt with that yet. Intentionally.
Could you tell us the colors that are actually on your palette?
If I remember, And there are a bunch of chemical names which I'm not very good at. So I think this is cat yellow, yellow ochre, some sort of orange, alizarin crimson. I think this is some sort of warm red, but it's not vermilion, but something like that. This is the straight red, sepia, burnt sienna, burnt amber, black, Prussian blue, some kind of teal, some kind of darker teal, cobalt blue, French ultramarine, some sort of a yellowish green. This is a sort of a cooler, like lemon kind of green, olive green, yellow, I'm sorry, yellow, olive green. Then I don't know, I think this is like maybe sap green or something. And then this is a dark, dark green.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm not an expert in the chemical and the paint, and I'm glad that there are people who are, and I learn a lot from them. I just like, if they work for me, then great. They mix well, great. And, I move on to my job, so.
Do you always use the same colors?
Pretty much, but yeah. I occasionally will, experiment. Got a bunch of paint given to me by various, like a friend's mom passed away. I got in here a bunch of paint. But I pretty much stay with relatively stable palette. I'm not like dogmatic. If they don't work, I'm totally open to getting a new one. I just haven't, seen that need. I haven't, except just kind of, just playing with the Play-Doh and stuff like that. But no. But it is more like a sculpting process. I think that's the learning I got really is, and then we did extensive drawing study. So really focusing on the planes and forms and lighting. There's a lot of things happening on a face, wrinkles and stuff like that, which I'm kind of drawing, but the forms actually is more important because, there's some superficial wrinkles, stuff like that is, it's just superficial. But if we depict the form right, then we can just kind of put a final touch of a little bit detail. That's totally fine.
Can you talk a little bit how you draw in planes?
So start off drawing with straight lines. There's quite a lot of people teaching on YouTube talking about straight line drawing. You draw a straight line because that's where you define the big direction, whether the head is tipping down or whether you angle. There's always straight lines. A ball start with straight lines, and because you could summarize, you can simplify a lot of form into those straight lines. Later on, with more and more details, you'll get the form will become more rounded. But at least to start with, straight line is very, very helpful in the kind of school that I was educated. And then when you treat them like the form on the body, as planes, and you paint it, because this is, if it was oil painter, that's what all they do. They have a flat brush, and they paint it flat. So it's quite intuitive, because what you see and what you think about a form aligns how you paint. So going back to brushstroke and things like that, the way I see and the way we paint this painting, we're also painting that person, but ultimately we're painting a painting. So, partly because me as a designer, I'm painting a design, a vision. So we have autonomy to choose what to paint and what not. So that's sometimes why you make some decisions that might deviate from the reference.
Tell us about the person you're painting.
The person? I've seen him 2 years in a row. Like I said, I went to the market, and he always there. He, to be honest, it looked like an aging hippie to a degree. He has that attitude that he doesn't care. It's not in this picture. He always have a cigarette in his mouth when he talk to you and he sell. So I have been watching. There's a few people I've been watching these couple of years. Because the vendors are there every year. Yes, I have. Just depending on the context and depending on the subject and the effect. But I think my dominant sort of process is wet on dry paper. So I think this will be probably the first round, first step with the sort of wash, and then I think next I'll go into the specific like nose, eyes, and ears. The reason I'm not doing the ears because, like I said, the ears, when the face is kind of defined, the ear basically kind of can fit in. It doesn't really drive the overall direction. I need it to dry.
Is that your black velvet brush?
I'm sorry.
The brush you're using?
This?
Yes.
This is the Chinese brush, the same brush.
Does this guy know that you paid him and have you shared it with him?
He doesn't. He didn't even know I took picture. I have a long lens. He wouldn't care anyway. I have a long lens. And so I'm like 20 feet away.
Stephen, have you painted your father?
No. It's the hardest one to paint your own family because they see it and they like. So, no, I haven't. He's a very good-looking guy.
You like to take pictures of people in a crowd, don't you?
I do, yeah. And sometimes, when I go there, a friend of ours, our local farm animal doctor, and he goes to drive different villages to treat the animals, and I would just tag along. And so I have a series of country farm, like farm animal doctor kind of project going on.
So do you paint animals?
I have. I did one of them was a cowboy in the Southwest Texas. Horse, I love horse. Bless you. I'm working on a lot of this little minor detail, but adding more element, more sort of details to the image. So it probably is difficult to see, even I flip over. So, but that's sort of in the building phase where I work on this, specific details.
These tiny dots that you're adding, are they different colors?
Which are different.
Well, we can tell you're making dots.
Yes. They're different colors. The colors that connect to what's already on the paper. Sometimes soften, transition. Sometimes, just adding, detail to a dent or small plane. I mean, this is where I am. It's not much difference. Except it has more little things. You know.
Coming to life.
Okay. Can't avoid it anymore. We have to do the air.
When you stretched your paper on the panel,
Mm-hmm.
was it wet or dry?
The paper is wet. So in this second stage, where I'm building all the details here, stuff like that, one of the problems is overdoing it. And so I think to me, I learned to kind of step away after a while because it's so, you put up music and you're sitting there for hours and it's so enjoyable. And then when you look at it, it's like it's all the balance is overdone. So my wife is here, and now I show her, she's like, a little overdone. So too much, the other one's better. So it's you can't help but work on it. It's you feel like this is my job. I'm doing it. I'm getting my paycheck. But sometimes it's more is not necessarily good.
It looks to me like you're practicing great restraint. Because you hold your brush and you don't move it until you thought it could. So, how do you do that?
I mean, it's just a habit. I think knowing that it's kind of almost like the landing of the airplane. I don't know how to drive airplane, but like finding the right angle to get in, because this it already has what's there, and we can't just I can't just put the new without regard of the existing ones. Also, I like to paint with a brush that's a little bit bigger than is appropriate. Obviously this brush can do small tips, so that helps. So that also forced me to not to get too tight. I can't remember, just vegetable stuff, like he has a couple of baskets on the floor. It's this kind of vendors, they typically, you can tell they grow themselves and it's a small quantity. It's not like large production. And I think it's also a good way to get out of the house and, be somewhere. This background? This? I'm not going to do the background like here, the dark background. So, but I did a little bit to kind of bring the back, push it back, let it be softer. So, we're getting close. This building process will take forever. But again, but then when you get to okay, I got everything done in the editing process or sort of a fine-tuning process. One of the things I would look for is the value change from here to here. Because right now they're even. It shouldn't be. So there should be sort of a gradual value change from here, from the highlight, the brightest the highlight compared to here. This is lighter. So, but in that case, I could take this very soft brush and I could just glaze it a little bit. But it's also anytime you do something, it's also an opportunity to use watercolor, use the water and to be, so it's not anonymous. If I but this is something that you really want to decide whether you want to do it or not. But if you were going to do it, you can just tint it. But it also creates its own flow, its own sort of water movement, and you can inject warm and cool colors. And the watermark is there, but it's not as harsh.
Do you go back and soften some of the edges?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes I will just use the brush to kind of smear it a little bit. And then, right now it's wet, so. A lot of things to consider, like if you look at here, this neck is way too light, right? So that's another place where you can either go to build with a small, or you can use the sort of this wash to tint it. So I darken this area so there's a bit more defined movement of the value. Obviously, anytime there's a value movement, there's a color movement too, like a warm and cool. So it goes cool, warmer too. I think this probably is about the time I could handle this painting during this time frame. Is there any question? So. Thank you. Let me put it on this easel so you can see it. There you go. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Sorry for the mess.
No worries.
Hey.
Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.